Turbo. Dynamic.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 2 of my PvP tutorial series for Pirates of the Burning Sea on PC. Today we are going to be covering some of the basics of participating in a group PvP battle or a line fight. We're going to discuss some of the skills associated with different classes that are essential to group PvP, and really we're going to focus on how best to contribute to the success and victory for your side. So this is going to be assuming that you've all seen episode 1 of this tutorial series and you have done all that's required to prepare yourself for battle. You've got all your career missions, all your clickies and ammunition and gear. You're in a good frigate for PvP fighting. It's time to get out on the open sea, join a group and start doing some PvP. Now, I myself have participated in hundreds, if not thousands, of battles, and a key determining factor when it comes to group fighting is going to be focused firepower. Now, if you have 20 cannons shooting one target versus 60 cannons shooting one target, obviously the one being shot with 60 cannons is going to be the killed first. That side is going to be the victor. So the first and essential key to any good fighting unit is going to be your ability to move and fight together in formation. Now, this all starts with shaking out a line at the start of any battle. Every battle starts the same way, but the key here is to not be selfish, but also to be quick and efficient. Generally speaking, when you spawn into the battle, certain ships are going to be closer to the front, and certain ships will be closer to the rear of the line, and some will be closer to the middle. The most important thing is just to get in line without T-boning or bumping into each other too much. The line is going to really set up all of the formations, maneuvers, and tactics that we're going to be discussing today and in the future episodes. So if anything, you need to learn how to get in line and how to shake that out quickly at the beginning of a battle. Again, the key here is to not be selfish, but also not to be afraid to, get in there and take your position and hold your post within the line. Now let's talk a bit about our group offensive tactics. So once your team has a line shaken out, the next step is going to be to call out a target to spike. Now what we mean by spiking is it's going to be a debuff on the target to lower their damage resistance, and then the entire group is going to target that player, the enemy player, with their high damage skills. So let me go over that again. So it all starts with a debuff, and let's cover what that exactly is first. Now there's two main debuffs that we're going to be using in this series. The first is one is going to be with the naval officer class, and the other is with the privateer class. The naval officer has a skill called focused fire. And as you can see here, it reduces the enemy's damage resistance. And the same with jugular on the privateer. Now, the difference between the two is, besides them being on different classes, focused fire has a set amount of damage resistance reduction, and the jugular is going to be based on how many shots actually hit when the privateer shoots the jugular. So there are also secondary debuffs, including things like Death's Embrace, which is a privateer skill, Thundering Broadside on the naval officer. Privateer also has a skill called Signals, and there are also many more that we don't get into necessarily at this time right now. So again, the main reason to be debuffing is to lower the enemy's damage resistance. So the key here is to use only one at a time and to manage the cooldowns of your jugular and focused fire across the entire group, so that at any given point in time you have a debuff available if, say, the enemy player that you're targeting, let's say they get a block or it starts running away and your team needs to change targets. You're not waiting for a cooldown. There's going to be someone available with that skill. So another important thing to note is if you are not the debuffer, you need to hold your fire until after the debuff is set. There is an element of surprise that goes into the art of spiking. So if, for example, you shoot early at the target, they're going to know that, hey, I'm going to be targeted, and so they might pop their defensive skills like Invincible or Too Mean to Die or Cheat Death. If you shoot too early, it'll give them a notification, that they're going to be targeted, and boom, opportunity wasted. So again, if you shoot a random target and let's say your guns are not loaded, your team debuffs the enemy, but before you have a chance to reload, he notices he's debuffed, and again, he's going to pop his defensive skills. Again, opportunity wasted. So I know it may be tempting, especially when you're in a line, sailing parallel from the enemy with 500 yards only between you. It may be tempting to just, space bar the guy directly across, but if it's not your target for the whole group, it's really important to just hold your fire until you choose one target. Because at the end of the day, one single broadside is not enough to kill an enemy, but if you use 6 broadsides in unison on a debuff target, it's going to melt them instantly before they have a chance to pull up their defenses or try to, escape or catch a block. So some general tips for group PvP offense. First off, you're going to want to know your class. You're going to want to know your skills and the spec that you have. So knowing what skills you have available as far as debuffs, knowing what you have as far as damage spikes is very important. So if your teammate is going to be debuffing first, which skills are going to cause the highest damage, and then when you switch targets, it's your turn to debuff and they will use the high damage skills. Another big tip is to communicate. You definitely do not want to double debuff, meaning use the same debuff on the same target. It's a waste, and now 2 people on your team have a 5-minute cooldown, versus if you stagger it, the group has a collective cooldown of only 2.5 minutes versus 5 minutes. Another communication tip is listen for the target. Again, hold your fire until the right moment. Don't blow it early. Another big tip is to control your sailing. This is something we didn't really talk about, when we were talking about the skills and stuff, but it's very important. So if you're in a bad formation, if you are bumping into your team, if you're breaking formation and not holding the line, you're really not going to be helping, because you need to be in the right place at the right time. Sometimes that means maybe you're sailing in the middle of the line and all the enemies can shoot you, but don't worry, if you guys are properly spiking and debuffing, the enemy's going to melt before they have a chance to kill you. And make sure you also watch episode 3 for our defensive tactics, so that if and when you do get targeted and you do get into danger, there are always ways to get out of it, especially if you have a good team that works together. Another tip is going to be to watch for good targets. If an enemy player gets out of position, let's say they break the line or they T-bone their teammate, or maybe they make a bad turn and are showing their stern to your entire line, make them pay for it. Again, in PvP, I've said this before, we are grinding for the slightest advantage here over the opponent. And then the last tip I have for this chapter is to pay attention to who the enemy is attacking as well. Because if you are not the target and they are clearly attacking someone else, that should be a green light for you to be fully aggressive. Close the distance, get in the fight, deal some damage while they're focused on your homie. On the other hand, if you notice that you are being targeted, it's time to play defensive. Pop your defensive skills, get a block, and sail away from the enemy, pull some distance in order to buy some time, as your team can then be more aggressive while the enemy is focused on you. Alright guys, that about does it for episode 2 of my Pirates of the Burning Sea PvP tutorial, offensive tactics. Please be sure to comment below if you have any other thoughts, tips, or tricks about offensive maneuvers, tactics, etc. This video just wanted to cover the basics of spiking and how to deal big damage as a group. Coming next, episode 3, we'll be covering some defensive tactics like blocking and taking distance while in the line. And I'm also trying to work out in episode 4 some concepts for some more advanced tips and tricks for group PvPs, like some advanced maneuvers and battle tactics for more advanced players and groups as well. Please remember to hit like and subscribe. It really doesn't take much from you guys, but it really means a lot to me. It helps me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm and getting this info out to other players who might not know about my channel yet. So please feel free to also share this video with your friends or your society in game. I'd love to see more active players in groups getting some good action going on the regular. But once again, guys, my name is Gamma. Thank you all so much for watching these videos and this series. And I hope that I will see you guys all on the open sea. Peace.
살기보단 생존하기 바쁜 정수리는 넓어지고 평소가 작아지는 마음 속에 피어나줬으면 해 한 송이의 평화 진흙탕 속의 연화 이 험한 현실에서 아직 붙잡아두고 싶은